just what do you make of this NBA All First Team selection process that took place just the last couple days or so?
I mean, for the most part, I agree with about 80% of it. It's the one person that I disagree with. I understand that this individual was an MVP candidate. I understand that this individual performed at a very high level. I understand that this person was on the NBA's best team, but I didn't think that he deserved to be in the position that he's in if we're talking about just from an overall position standpoint. If that's the wave that the NBA wants to hold to, if that's the rule or voting process of, the best point guard in the league, the best shooting guard, and so on and so forth. But we're looking at it from a perspective of this should be the top 5 players in the league, in my opinion. This should be the top 5 players at their peak, the top 5 players that kind of round out the season as the most consistent, as the most dominant players in the NBA. Joel Embiid was second in MVP voting for a reason. Joel Embiid won the scoring title for a reason. Joel Embiid played through multiple injuries throughout the entireness of this season, while at the same time going through the adjustments of playing with James Harden and all the loopholes and kind of like chaos that Philly had to go through this season, and still was snubbed from an all first team. Devin Booker, if we're going by position, once again, the order was Booker at point, Luka at the 2, Jason Tatum at the 3, Giannis Antetokounmpo at the 4, and then Nikola Jokic at the center. Nikola Jokic won the MVP. Nikola Jokic was the best center in the game. Nikola Jokic rightfully deserves to be at the 5. At the 4, Giannis Antetokounmpo was the best forward in basketball. You can make the argument for Jason Tatum with Braun and a couple of other players, but between injuries and all these other things, him and KD back and forth missed a significant amount of time. Jason Tatum took that step to lead Boston to the second best seed in the entire NBA, or should I say, in the entire Eastern Conference. He's got to go and get that. Luka Doncic playing with second round draft picks, undrafted people. Luka Doncic averaging damn near triple double. I think fourth or fifth in MVP voting, so rightfully so. This is his third All Pro or like kind of like All First Team selection in 4 years. Devin Booker's the only one where you're like, why is Joel not on this list? Like, you can easily move Luka to the 1, Jason to the 2, or I mean, like, you can move, like I said, excuse me, Luka to the 1, Jason to the 2, Giannis to the 3, Joel to the 4, or Jokic to the 4, and either one of them rotate through 5. Those are the 5 best players in the league. I don't understand why Devin's there. If you're gonna make this about position, put people at the genuine position that they belong. Luka technically plays the 1, so he should be the all pro for the 1. For the 2, Devin Booker, is he really the best shooting guard? I don't necessarily know. Devin Booker sure as shit isn't a point guard, and that's the matchup that they have him at. If that's the case, you go out there and you put Steph Curry, who is the best point guard in the league. I this whole thing is just inconsistent. This whole thing is weird. I don't necessarily agree with how the selection process has been over the course of the last 30 years, however long all pros have been existing. I don't like the fact that it just has no structure to it. It differentiates every single year. And if these are supposed to be the top best players in the league, the top 15 players in the league, there's some people easily that you would swap on this list. So I mean, in terms of the all first team, 4 out of 5 are okay. Devin's the only questionable one. And again, that's no slander to Devin Booker. Phenomenal player, one of the best young and up and coming players in this league. Joel Embiid definitely deserved to be there over him.
I mean, Kevin, I'm in agreement with you on this one. I mean, when I look at Nikola Jokic, I mean, he won back-to-back MVPs. I mean, the guy deserves to be on NBA first team. I look at Luka, same thing. He's been absolutely crushing it the last couple years with Dallas. Got the Mavs all the way to the Western Conference Finals when nobody was expecting it. Giannis has just been a model of consistency with the Bucks. I mean, coming off of a championship caliber season last year, he just continues to dominate for Milwaukee and really like just the center position. Well, you could say 4/5 because he does kind of tend to play both sometimes in Milwaukee's rotations. But he's a model of consistency. Jason Tatum, when I look at Jason, I think he got that simply just because Boston propelled all the way to the second seed. And really, the second half of the season is when I thought that Boston really took off. And I think that's in large part due to what Jason Tatum was able to do on a night in, night out basis. The one player that I have an issue with is Devin Booker. Now, I do believe that Devin Booker deserves to be on an NBA All Pro team, just not the first team. That should be Joel Embiid. And to me, it's not even close because Joel Embiid was literally neck and neck with Nikola Jokic for the MVP the entire season. And like Kevin had mentioned, with all the injuries and all the turmoil that Philly had dealt with this season in particular, Joel Embiid was consistent. The guy had the NBA scoring title, like Kevin mentioned. They were a top 4 seed in the East this year. And despite all the shifting players that were moved, like when Ben Simmons got traded to Brooklyn, James Harden came into the fold for Philly. Despite that transition of players going from one place to another, Joel was consistent. And I just find it absolutely like bizarre that Giannis was like a unanimous pick, but like Joel was never even considered for an NBA All Pro first team selection. Because when I look at Joel Embiid, Kev, I think I have to start making this point with Joel. I think he is becoming one of the most underappreciated bigs that we have in the game. And I could probably take it one step further. Not just a big in the NBA, but really like when it comes to players across the entire league. I mean, I have to start putting him up there because when you finish second in the NBA MVP voting and you end up on the NBA All Pro second team, I mean, don't get me wrong, like, ending up on some sort of All Pro team is a major accomplishment no matter what it is. But to me, the statistics of what Joel did throughout the regular season, that should immediately be in consideration for an NBA All Pro first team. And the fact that he didn't get MVP and then he didn't get the All Pro first team selection, I think that is a major insult to him because he largely carried Philly on his back the entire season. I mean, Philly has a pretty solid roster when you consider all the players that they have in their rotation. But you take Joel out of that lineup, they may be an outside shot to make a playoffs in the Eastern Conference. But outside of that, they're going to be largely an irrelevant team. Joel makes that team viable. And in some cases, he makes them more than just viable. He gives them the best chance to win night in and night out. And I mean, the guy averages over 30 points a game this year. Basically, is just an absolute dominant force down low. And I think for the NBA to not give him his just like really just to give him his respect from this past season with an NBA All Pro first team selection, I think is a major insult to him. Um, and I think that it's really a disservice just because if somebody's going to go out there and average over 30 points a game, is one of the most dominating centers in the league, and just does it consistently for the entire season, you got to put him in the NBA All First Team. And the fact that they didn't, I think it was a major disservice to him, and I think it really does show, I think, a level of disrespect that Joel Embiid receives. Um, the guy's a phenomenal player, and it's a little concerning to me that he was never considered for an NBA All Pro first team. But you know that committee has some sort of way of being able to select the players that they want. Granted, I know they base it off a position, which I do understand, but I think it was a disservice to leave Joel off that list for NBA All Pro first team. That's just how I see it.